Welcome to the Abington LaunchBox podcast for Global Entrepreneurship Week of 2024. This year, the focus is on women in entrepreneurship. My name is Alina Ortiz. I'm a student here at Penn State Abington, and I'm joined by my colleague, Faith.
Hello. Oh, sorry. My name is Faith Hardee. I am a business major in individualized plan, and I'm so happy to be here. And we are here, me and Alina, with Mrs.
Mrs. Put some respect on that Johnson.
I heard that R missing. I heard it.
My name is Elaine Johnson. I'm so excited to be here. I am the founder of a nonprofit organization called Latinas in Motion. I also have a company called Mogul Mommy. A lot of people, believe it or not, get that wrong. I know.
For what reason? What
Mogul,
part?
The mogul part. Like they say,
Are they mispronounced?
mogul? Yeah. So Mogul Mommy, I started that because I was being invited to do a lot of keynote speaking, which is completely separate from my nonprofit organization. So I decided to open up an LLC, and I do so much with that company in regards to like creating products that just really inspire women to live their absolute best lives. And most recently, which I'm sure we're going to talk about, is I just wrote a curriculum for a Women in Entrepreneurship non-credit certificate at Penn State Abington that I'm super proud about,
Yes.
right? Like, I never thought, believe it or not, that I could write a curriculum. That seems very professional. Like,
Well, you are a professional, are you
Yes.
not?
I am, but I feel like I'm a better speaker than I am a writer.
Gotcha.
Like, when you think about writing a curriculum, that doesn't sound scary.
Sounds terrifying.
Sounds like a lot of work. It sounds like your day-to-day is packed.
Yes, it is. But I really pride myself on whole life success. I think that I want to be a woman who's able to manage, I won't say balance because I don't believe in that, but manage my life as a wife, as a mother, and as a business person. Mm-hmm. I think that society continues to tell women that you can be either or, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can be a great mom or you can have a successful business. But then we look at people like Beyonce, for example. Y'all know this, but I love Beyonce.
I felt it coming. I was like, beehive energy?
Yes. No, the thing is like Beyonce is not just a singer, but she just released a hair care company, right? And then she just released a whiskey company, right?
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes,
Yes,
girl.
David.
Yes,
Wow.
whiskey. And then she's also doing acting. She has this partnership with Levi Jeans, just all of these things. And we look at her and we say, she's that girl.
She is that girl.
She is that girl. But then let's talk about the girl next door, right? So let's talk about Elaine. So many people on social media will always tell me, like, you do too much. You're not tired. But why don't we give that energy to the Oprahs and the Beyoncés, the J-Los of the world? We look at them and we're
far
like,
away from the people asking those questions to even answer those questions. That's none of those people who are asking those questions are around the Oprahs, the Gales, the Beyoncés.
Come on.
So
Come on, Faith.
if they're asking those questions to you, y'all are lucky that y'all are even close enough to ask this question because right now
I like that.
you're taking up my time. I gotta go, actually.
I think you're absolutely right. For me, I used to ask a lot of questions or wonder, like, why are they mad? They haven't bought a product from me.
Right.
They're not supporting me. But I realized it's projection. You're projecting because you cannot live your life as freely as I do, because I'm the queen of the pivot. Like, I have to sleep well at night with me. If something doesn't work out, I have a master's degree from Drexel. Like, I know that if it doesn't work out, I could do something else. But I think most people are afraid because of what people are going to say. Like, they're afraid to say, I changed my mind, or this failed, or this didn't work. Where I'm more like, well, at least I had the courage to try.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So,
I think it takes a lot of work and courage to get to that point. So, like,
hold on, because that is a word.
I feel like being true and authentic to yourself takes a lot of work. So, like, were there any battles that you faced in that journey?
Gosh, yes. I just started going back to therapy. So I went to therapy in 2021. I was having like really bad panic attacks just from life, right? Like, it just got really hard. And I'm Puerto Rican, and mental health is not something that we talked about in our family.
Yep.
And so I decided to go to therapy, and it was so healing for me to try to unravel and unlearn a lot of the things, try to understand that I didn't have boundaries. I was about to say my boundaries. I had no boundaries. That's probably why I had panic attacks. But for me, I've learned why I love just fighting for women's rights and believing that we can do whatever it is that we put our mind to. But when I started to like look at the whole picture of my life, and my therapist asked me this, and I'm going to ask this to y'all too. So start thinking about your answers. But my therapist said, Elaine, what was your first memory that made you feel like you couldn't do fill in the blank?
Mm-hmm.
What was
a really good question.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, when was the first time you felt like somebody cut your wings? And then when I started to think about that for myself and started to do the work of like, wow, I was 8. That's really young for that first seed of insecurity, for that first seed of disbelief, for that first seed of whatever it is to grow in my spirit to make me feel like, wow, I can't do something, or I shouldn't do something, or I'm not good enough, or I don't fit the part, or I'm not a certain size, or whatever it is. And so then now, as a professional, as a woman who should know better, now I have to undo all of that I believed, right? And so my goal, the reason why I'm so passionate about girls and women is because I have a daughter and I have a son too. But I want to raise my children in a world where they believe that they can do whatever it is, that they believe they can be whoever, right? Because I think that society is going to already put all of these ideas of who you can't be and who you shouldn't be and all of these things. So how can I create these spaces where women feel safe, where women feel seen, where women feel celebrated, where I can provide tools to give these women strategies where they can dream out loud unapologetically? So when was the first time you ever felt like someone clipped your wings?
Well, I was almost as young as you were. 8 was probably when I started to see it more clearly. But the earliest memory I have was when I was 6. And I remember being around all my cousins, and we were talking about, I had went to a private school, and we were talking about what our grades looked like because our grandfather always gave us money if we got really good grades. And I was telling them that I made honor roll that year. And they were like, oh, you think you're all that. You think you're doing this. You think you're going to whatever. Like, a bunch of negative stuff. Wasn't really listening to it, but I was like, okay, well, whatever. And I didn't realize, like, that was something that continued throughout my life. Like you said, that was your first instance, and it registered immediately. Like, you can clearly remember that memory. But, like, it's happened multiple times. Like, I can pinpoint exact times when it's happened throughout my life. And it never really clicked as like, oh, they're sipping haterade. Like, it never really clicked, but it registered as, oh, you think I can't do this?
Right.
Oh, you think that I'm not that one? Oh, you think that this? And it never really registered like I was proving people wrong all the time. And I was doing this because someone had said something negative to me. But when you asked that question, I was like, oh, I've heard that many times. I've heard something like that many a times, but I don't know if it was something that I had personally, like an experience that happened to me personally, where I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense for someone to tell me that I can't do something. Like, who are you to tell me? You're not me. You don't know what I'm thinking. You don't know who I am. You don't know what I do in my spare time. And I mean, these are cousins at 6, but later in life, I'm like, you are a random, can't say that word, you are a random donkey. I don't know.
I love that. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, I'm trying to be, very politically correct at the moment and try to keep my composure. But yeah, who are you?
Right.
Wow.
Tell me.
Yes.
For me, so I have background in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've trained for the past 8 years, and I started when I was 12 years old. But I was a big 12-year-old. I could not go to the kids' class. I had to go in the adults' class by myself as a 12-year-old little girl. And as time went on, I don't want to hype myself up too much, but I
No,
got pretty
hype
good.
yourself up. Yeah. Hype yourself up.
I was pretty good for my age, and for in the jiu-jitsu community, it's male dominated. Male dominated, and the clientele that was at that gym, it was not my age, so it was a lot of older people in the sense of older than a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah.
But because I was doing what I had to do and being who I had to be, some people were like, you're just a 12-year-old little girl. Like, what are you doing? Like, you can't do this. Like, you're not that good. You can't beat me up, right?
The fact that they had commentary.
Right.
But I'm just a 12-year-old little girl, so what's the commentary for?
And the gym that I was at, they made a great deal of celebrating the accomplishments. So every time we got promoted, so to explain that, promoted, getting a stripe on your belt, getting a new belt, you got to give a little speech as like a thank you or saying what you had to go through for your journey. And I always brought up the fact that there was so many more men than there were women or girls. I always brought it up because it was important to me. I was one of the only girls in the room, and I had to make that known. And at the end, oh, you were doing good in your speech until you brought up the male-dominated stuff. It's not bringing that stuff up. It's saying the facts in the room. So at a young age of being 12, 13, 14, those comments were coming in from older men in the room. And that to me was not good. I had to make it so that if I was going to be the only woman in the room, I was going to show up and I was going to do what needed to be done. So that was my answer. I feel like that started my journey of being a woman who's meant to do something in her life.
I love that.
So
I love that.
thank
Yes.
you. Yeah, I love that too.
It's the snaps for me.
It is the snaps for me.
I feel like it's a little bit more ASMR if we do snaps rather than claps.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't resonate with your story in the way that I've never taken jiu-jitsu. I've never, you got that? And I'm glad that you had that experience.
If you want.
No, because I can already see, I tried karate and it wasn't a fit for me. I was like, nah, man.
Yeah, I did that before.
Put me in
and it
piano
wasn't
class.
needed.
I'd rather be somewhere else. But I'm glad that you pointed out that in your speech, you recognized that you had triumphed over all of these naysayers, right? All of their opinions that, they gave throughout your entire experience. And then at the end, when you recognized it, you brought it up. And they had something to say about you bringing it up, but they probably brought it up every single day.
Oh, absolutely.
Every time you stepped foot in that gym, they were probably like, oh my gosh, here goes this little girl again, thinking that she can do what boys can do. But it's like, well, first, why are we saying that sentence of, oh, girls can do whatever boys can do? I don't even like that because it makes it seem like there's a restriction, like there's already like an insecurity bubbling up in the back of the girl's head. Yeah, like, oh, only boys play in dirt. Oh, well, I like rocks too. I want to be a geologist, so why can't I play in the dirt and find rocks? But it's already kind of being processed as young women. Like we can't be, we can't say, because it's not quote unquote ladylike. Right. But like, what is ladylike? Like, what is it to be a lady? And each and every one of us sitting at this table is a lady. I can look at I'm saying each and every one of you. There's only 3 of us in here. But
No, you go ahead. Talk your talk.
Mr. Hornberger. I can look at both of you and say, this is what a lady looks like to me. Someone who's poised, someone who's graceful, someone who has experience, someone who wants to do something more. They can project. That's a lady to me, not someone who just princes around looking pretty, has her hair done. I mean, we have that too. We're ladies, of course. But if we didn't have that, does that make us any less of lady?
Right.
No, I don't think so.
So let me ask you this. As we celebrate National Entrepreneur Week, right, how are you both taking these experiences and carrying them with you as upcoming entrepreneurs, already an entrepreneur? How are you taking these experiences and making sure that you're breaking glass ceilings or you're bringing somebody else to the table?
So with me, I started my entrepreneurial spirit with photography. I went to a high school for art and I majored in media arts, and I found my passion and my love for media arts, for photography specifically. And, when COVID shut down, we were not in school, so we couldn't practice our art. So I bought myself well, I didn't buy myself. My mom bought me a camera, and ever since then,
Sorry, I was trying to like whisper. Another lady.
another lady, yes.
Uplifting another lady.
Absolutely.
Come on.
But since then, I started taking clients. I did event photography. I did creative portraits, headshots, like you name it, I probably did it. And I loved it. I loved it so much. But you know what, as time goes on, things change and I didn't have time for it anymore. But now I started my own business and I'm a florist.
Yes.
Self-learned, self-taught. I started my business, Flores de Alina, creating arrangements outside of my home. It started off as like just for occasions, but now I do events. I just booked my first wedding, and
Which
it
is
was
amazing.
Thank you. It was so amazing. It was so great. Stressful, but it was good. But all of that to say, my entrepreneurial spirit comes from my mama. My mom is an entrepreneur, and she kills it. She is a personal trainer, a fitness instructor. She had her own virtual fitness program because of COVID. So I don't know. I just feel like entrepreneurial spirit is so important, especially in young women, minority women as well. As a Latina, I try to push the envelope of being a woman of color, of power. And I think it's awesome to be able to say that I started a business as a 20-year-old Latina. I think it's awesome to say that. I think it's awesome to be able to brag about it too.
Yes.
Like, I can brag about it. I know a lot of people, I have a lot of friends, and not everybody can say that. And I think it's awesome to be able to say that. To be able to say I'm an entrepreneur. So, yeah.
Love that.
Right on, right on. I was going to say, I like the sound of Faith Hardee, CEO.
Yes.
It just, something about it just rolls off the tongue. Kind of like, just I don't even know what other word or whatever, if I can speak English, what other phrase rolls off the tongue. But so part of your story that really got to me was that your mom was an entrepreneur and that she was the one who kind of like pushed you to
Absolutely.
build that spirit. And I like that that's where you didn't shy away from that. You weren't saying like, oh no, Mom, that's kind of like your thing. Like, don't like loop me into it. You took it head on and you said, okay, like, let's run with it. And I respect that. And I respect that your mom didn't, like, I don't know what the story is. We'll have to do another episode to figure out the story in detail. But yeah, I like that. I like that women uplift women. I did later in life have other women, plural, lift me up. But when I started thinking about owning a business, it wasn't the women around me per se, but it was the women listening to the world around them. So the world kind of inspired me to do my own thing, get my own bag, hustle on my own, whatever you want to say.
As you should.
And I wanted to make my own money. I didn't like the feeling of having to rely on other people. Now, some may say trauma. I was just quoting Meek Mill. I don't really, it wasn't about trauma. It was just about, I wanted to be able to earn. The feeling of not earning something is, there's a space that doesn't feel like it's right. It's not for me if I didn't earn it. Now, I'm all about getting gifts and, thank you for the opportunity of doors open. I'm grateful for that, and I take that opportunity because it's been afforded for me, and I'm a spiritual person, so I do think that it's best to take opportunities that are given to you. Don't just shy away from them. Sorry, I digress. But my story was that I wanted something of my own, didn't know what it was, until I got in high school, and when I figured out that baking was my thing, and I had a passion for it, I liked to create. So the same thing, like I wanted to make money, I wanted to earn it. I wanted to create something that it's an art. Like I wanted to just be an artist, for lack of better terminology. Yeah. And that's where it came from. I'm kind of like rambling, so I'm going to pass it over and hope that you guys got that and I don't have to continue talking. So
No, I think it was great. I think that's why most women start businesses. For a lot of us, we're so emotionally attached to what we create because it feels like freedom when we're able to be creative in a world that puts us in this box.
yes.
right? So I love that you called yourself an artist. I love that you had the ability to pivot, Alina, from photography to being a florist. As long as you continue to trust yourself and trust your instinct, that's like the piece of advice that I give to a lot of up and coming entrepreneurs or business owners, of knowing that every season that you're in is going to reveal a different version of you that's going to be so beautiful. And don't allow people to make you dim your light or people to make you feel small. It's so funny. I had the extreme honor of having a conversation with Congresswoman AOC.
Ooh.
And she is the first Latina, me too. She's the first Latina and the youngest woman ever to serve as a congressperson, right? So when I saw her, most of the time people categorize me as being too much, right? Like, I love lashes, I love makeup, I love doing my hair. So when I'm in professional spaces, I get this question often of like, you look really nice. Where are you going? I'm here. I'm going to work, right?
I'm living my life. What do you mean?
And so when I got the opportunity to meet her and talk with her, I remember seeing her one day. This is like a true story. Like, I'm giving y'all like my true. And she was at a congressional meeting and she was wearing red lipstick and gold hoops. And that was the first time that I saw myself. That was the first time I saw myself in that light, right? Now, do I have goals of ever serving? No, I don't. Let me just stop that right there. But it was important for me that if I had the opportunity to tell her how she inspired me, that I would. I think that oftentimes we make moves and never understand how we're leaving this legacy or giving other people the freedom to be fully who they are. Mm-hmm. And so I asked her, how do you walk in that power when you are in rooms where no one looks like you? And she said something that I will never forget, that I never want you both to forget. If you're ever in a room as a woman or a woman of color and you feel like you're too much, or you feel like you're the only person that looks like you, go in there with the understanding that those rooms were never created to make us feel equal. Were never created to make us feel seen. Were never created to make us feel celebrated. So you have a different posture knowing that as I walk in this room, I'm walking in there not only in the power of who I am, not only authentically as myself, but I feel better knowing that if these spaces were not created for me, let me be the first person, and to Alina's point, not the last person.
Hey, ain't that a word? Leave the door
Right?
open.
Yes.
Please leave the door open. I know that this is kind of like one of those podcasts where we're supposed to just share our experience, but please, even if you're just starting, leave the door open for the person behind you. There's no point in slamming the door shut in the face of someone who looks like you, who may have the same mindset as you, just because you feel like you're in competition. Mm-hmm. There's no competition, like you said, in a world that wasn't made for you. The competition, there's no competition. You found your way in, and it wasn't even made for you. You were the competition. Mm-hmm. And now there's such thing. I mean, it's a competitive world out here, but you know, it does no harm in making sure that someone else has the same opportunities as you. Just please, don't be selfish. Don't be selfish. There's so much selfishness in this world, and you don't have to be, my goodness gracious, just be better. Just be better.
But even if you go to the grocery store, right? I love this example. If you ever walk down the bread aisle, there are at least 50 brands of bread right next to each other. We're not talking about on a different aisle, right? I think that when you are walking in your purpose, when you're sure about your gifts, you're not worried about anybody else that's doing what you're doing because you know what you bring to the table.
A word.
So if you're watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, the best piece of advice I can give you is hone in on your craft, hone in on your niche, and walk in there like you are that girl, been that girl, right? Are that woman, been that woman.
Yes.
Because it doesn't matter if somebody else has a running club or wellness group or created a planner or is a speaker. I know that they could never deliver anything like Elaine the way Elaine delivers as Elaine. Right. And so I'm not afraid to bring a chair up for anybody else, or to open the door, or to make sure that I shatter that glass ceiling so that everybody can follow right behind me. Because to your point, Faith, competition, saturation, it doesn't exist in my world. It does not exist in my world.
That's something.
Stay in your lane, people.
That's something that I've talked a lot about with my parents as an entrepreneurial family. What is it that makes you different? what is it that is going to point you out better than the other flower businesses, better than the other personal trainers, than the other photographers. There is nothing, again, there's no competition. However, you are the only you, and that's what points you out different than everyone else. So take up that space, like you said, Elaine. Take up that space. Be yourself. Be authentic. And it will come.
Yes.
It will come. The purpose, you have to walk in your purpose, like you said, and everything will come right after. So leave the door open for the next people, but leave the door open for the opportunities as well, because opportunities will follow when you're being yourself, being authentic.
Come on. Okay, so
Snaps.
my next question for the both of you. Why do you think we've been getting so much traction for this Women in Entrepreneurship certificate, right? Which is exciting, but also from your posture, from your point of view, why do you think Women in Entrepreneurship certificate is gaining so much notoriety, or why are women excited about it?
I'm going to say why I'm excited about it.
Come
because
on.
I'm interested. I'm excited because I think it's so powerful and necessary to have community. So community is so important, especially in women. Community is so important, but it's even more important in women communities. I think that was a little bit of a tongue twister. But so you can learn so much about being an entrepreneur and learn so many new things that you might not know already, but after the fact, the community is still there. And with myself, after doing a few vendor markets for my business, like I have community afterwards. The markets is done. There's no more advertisements for the markets, but you still have connections. You have people that you can go to if you need anything. You have people you can go to if you need advice, if you need help. And I think that that is so cool. I think it's so cool to be able to say, my girl, she knows what she's doing. She's a business owner, right? Like you can say that about your friends. And I think that's so cool. So that's why I'm excited for it. Community and being able to be in the same room with people who look like you and who want the same things, who want the same flowers for you.
Yes.
So
I love that. Faith?
My answer is very simple. Love. That's all I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it at that.
love is important.
I was gonna say let me explain because that could be taken as anything, but I think that having a passion, it's easy to make a passion project into something, like getting financial benefits out of something passionate. Like I have been told many times to turn my baking into a business, and it's not something that I'm not considering, but I just don't like the idea of something that I love being turned into something that's just for financial gain. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like something that would satisfy me or satisfy my soul, or even if it was in a community that I loved, it wouldn't feel like I was adding something to it. There are thousands of bakeries out there. Every day people are opening up bakeries or going on Facebook Marketplace and saying, hey, buy my cookies. That was so childish. I'm so sorry. Please cut that out. Anyway, I think that what makes me feel good about my baking is that people love it. I have gone to family reunions where people were like, can you please bring? And I'm like, yeah, like, of course I would bring that. Why wouldn't I bring that if you like it so much? Like, my grandma is obsessed with my lemon cupcakes. I mean, that lady, every time I see her, she's like, well, why didn't you bring those lemon cupcakes? And I was like, Grandma, well, first of all, it's 90 degrees outside, and I didn't feel like cutting the oven on. But she's like, well, next time when it's 70 degrees, bring the cupcakes. And I think that to me speaks louder than any check or any purchase that anyone could make to something that deeply impact. Like, I need to bake because it just makes me feel like I'm in my purpose.
Right.
Now, there are other things that I like to do that I'm good at, and like I'm a business major and I've taken accounting classes. Don't need to take accounting classes, but I've taken many accounting classes, and I enjoy accounting. I have a love for accounting. Yeah, okay, I'll say that. I have a love for accounting. I've taken it, and I like the idea of handling my financial business. I know where my money is, and I can tell you exactly what category it's into, how much was debited, how much was credited. It makes me feel good to know that. That's something that I'm passionate about. But the level of passion I have for accounting is not the level of passion I have for baking. I can make accounting into something career-based. I can be someone's accountant, or during tax season, I can do someone's taxes. I can do that. But to have baking as something that I feel like I've had a really crappy day. Like today is a really crappy day. We know in this room why it's a really crappy day, but it could just be a crappy day for you whenever you're hearing this. And to have something to lean on when you feel like, oh my God, like I just can't. Mm-hmm. That to me is what baking is. And that love for it that I have, there's no dollar sign next to it. You can't put a dollar sign next to it. Now, eventually, if it ends up being that accounting is no longer satisfactory, it's no longer something that I love or I'm passionate about, that's when I will lean on something that I know is there for me. And I have other things that I love more than baking, probably one or two other things, but outside of that, that's the only thing that I can see being a financial gain. It can benefit me financially, but it'll have to take a lot of other stuff falling through for me to do that for financial gain. Mm-hmm. But even though I'm in this group with you ladies and we're talking about entrepreneurship, like that is something that if I really put thought into it, I'm building capital. Like that's the reason why I'm doing this. And I want to own a business in a bakery for the capital, but I'll move on because I'm taking up a lot of time, so go.
So in closing, I know we just ran out of time and the time went by super, super fast. I just want to thank you both for your time, your talent, your point of view, your posture. The reason why we wanted to create this Women in Entrepreneurship non-credit certificate is to provide access, tools, and strategy to women who may not be able to have this conversation with us, may not have a seat at the table. And we're so excited to launch it in 2025. And we hope that you all stay tuned for our next episode.
Yes.
You better.